Hi everyone. So I am in a contest with myself to keep this under 5 minutes. However, you all know I'm really wordy, so I'm going to try not to talk like an auctioneer to get at all my thoughts. Okay, so Louisa May Alcott once wrote, "She is too fond of books and it has addled or turned her brain." I think that Louisa May Alcott was actually referring to Rebecca Gould's The Lure of Romance, to the main character, Virginia. Obviously, romance books have addled her brain quite a bit. I think I don't know if it's considered romance this because she didn't fall in love with another human being. She fell in love with reading in her books. And who hasn't? Who hasn't gotten to the point in a book when you're so sucked in and you just can't put it down and you get angry at like interruptions and things like this, but Virginia took it too far. I think it became her lover. Like the books became her lover, and just not one book, but all of the books. Like she was reading a new book every day, and that's all she wanted to do. Her poor child with croup. Like I can't even as a mom. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it certainly has some romance components to it. The books, and she did end up together in the end, so she had her happiness there. However, like I said, it's not a human being. I don't know. She certainly loved the books, so the audience for romance is obviously generally women, but that being said, more and more men are starting to read these books, so we just can't discount that demographic. The author voice and everything, it just seems like these stories seem to be character driven, and that's what I love about them. So young adult also seems to be character driven, so that's something that appeals to me. The romance as a genre has changed a lot since the Mills and Boon age. Before, when I think of romance, I still get the image of like Fabio on a book cover with his long hair, and that's just not like, yeah, some of these covers are still kind of like that, but the whole genre as a whole has changed, and women are stronger within their own right now in these books, and they have their own jobs, and they won't perish away if the man doesn't come in and swoop them up and save them. That's not how it happens anymore. And so I like that romance has changed with the times in that respect. The other thing that I like about romance, which also works with young adults so well, is that it can span all the genres. So like when you go into a bookstore, you can see thriller, you can see mystery, you can find horror, you can find contemporary, you can find young adult, all of these under the umbrella of young adult. So it's really easy to work into everything else. And not only that, but all of these other genres can also borrow from some of the romantic notions that romance novels have. So for instance, like in young adult, if you have a female protagonist, 9 times out of 10 you're probably going to have a romance in it or two. So that's kind of, yeah, it works through everything. It's a good umbrella for all the other genres, I think. How do stories you read fit into romance fiction as genre? Okay, I used to read romance a lot. I remember growing up, my best friend's mom was a lot like Virginia in the story we read, and she had these stacks of romance, and she would come home from work and she would throw up her feet, she'd smoke her cigarettes, and she would just read these things. And so like, I don't know why, but I thought she was so cool. She's like, yeah, I'm reading my books, and she didn't care, and she had stacks. And so I started reading them then. I don't know why, I didn't think she was like someone I wanted to emulate, but like it interested me to know how she got so sucked up into them. So I started reading them, and I enjoyed them, I don't think my parents knew I was reading them, but I was. So then I kind of stopped for a while, and I think a few years, maybe 2 years ago, I don't even remember what book it was, but 2 years ago, I just picked up like a contemporary book. I just thought it was like, female literature, and I picked it up and I started reading it and I fell in love with it, but I never noticed the publisher. Print of Harlequin, I was shocked. So I was shocked. It was really good. It was a good book, and it was not how I imagined Harlequin to be at all. So one thing that I read that really resonated with me is the fact that the genre itself changes, and it changes with the times and where women are at the time. And so while people think that romance may be old-fashioned and weak women being saved by men, they really need to sit back and actually take a look at romance, because the fact of the matter is that it seems to be progressive and maybe be a little bit ahead of the times in regards to women. So I really like. Something else that I want to really point out is that, people have this preconceived notion of what romance is, and so it goes along with my, Harlequin story from before. I don't think they're right. I don't think these preconceived notions are right, and I don't think that women should be shamed for reading them. I have a quote. I found an article. Actually, it was posted in one of my writers groups on Facebook from The Guardian. It was about Nora Roberts, and I can link it below. But she had a quote that really that I liked. Okay, the quote reads, "They don't see that as legitimate, but it's so insulting towards millions of people. Why would you apologize for what you read for pleasure? Just think of the illiteracy rate. Every book read for pleasure should be celebrated, and novels that celebrate love, commitment, relationships, and making relationships work. Why isn't that something to be respected?" As to whether or not I'm going to bring romance elements into my YA writing, absolutely. I generally focus on female protagonists, and it just works with, high school driven stories. So yeah, I am, but it's not always going to work out in the end. So they wouldn't be classified as young adult romance. So yeah, okay. So I think I kept this under 7 minutes. Yuck!